if you ended up with 20 people in a room, what is your experience about their ability to be successful remote viewing? Are most of the people in the class able to be successful?
Oh, yes, all of them, all to varying degrees, of course, but they are all successful at remote viewing. The training targets that we provide for them.
That's pretty cool.
And they're just to hear the gasps and the jaw dropping, seeing that is pretty fun because they're amazed that it even works.
Well, let me go back and play with one of the points that you just made. You said at the beginning you were led into this because you wanted to capitalize on future events. That's interesting words, but are you saying something like you wanted to be able to predict the stock market or future? Were you looking for financial gain, or is this something that you were trying to avoid things that you felt like were imminent?
Well, actually both, but mostly financial gain. We started off looking at sports games, doing parlay bets and things like this, but eventually we formed a financial group, that now does that pretty much full time. We have a substantial capital investment. We formed a corporation, and our team of remote viewers now remote views various futures markets, and we have some application programmers, software developers, that created an application that takes our remote viewing data, feeds it into this system, and determines when things are bought and sold. That's another real-world application of remote viewing that is in something that's going on right now. I'm obviously, I can't tell you the name of the company that does this.
No, I understand.
Because
and I think that's
it's an unfair advantage.
You're talking about what to me is, I perceive as a spiritual gift we all have, and you're looking in one area, which is the financial, but talk to me about the other things that you discovered beyond that. Tell me some stories of things that the benefits beyond the financial that you've experienced or seen yourself or have had students share with you.
Well, one example is I worked with Ed Baines on several missing children's cases. It's a humanitarian type of free pro bono service that we provide, and we help law enforcement track down fugitives or to find missing children. Unfortunately, most of the time these children have been murdered, but there have been many cases where we have remote viewed this poor little child who is still alive, and we give the information to local law enforcement because we have special protocols that allow us to pinpoint the geographic location of where this person is at. So we provide that data to law enforcement free of charge. We never take any reward money, even if it's offered to us. That is some of the more, I guess you'd call it, humanitarian efforts that we provide.
That's really encouraging to hear, and to me, another great use of our abilities is to bring real-world value back to the community.
It's good karmically, because there is a thing such as karma. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If you do a particular thing, there is going to be some type of reaction to that. And it's not spiritual, it's not like that, it's just a physical fact that you do something and something happens. So by doing this, you're helping to balance out things, I guess, is one way to look at it from a purely holistic standpoint.
Well, we've got a fascinating topic, and we've got probably a little over 30 minutes left, and I'd like for you to share a couple things. One, I want to talk about the real gift you've brought to the remote viewing community in being able to pinpoint time, because that's been an issue in remote viewing for quite some time. But in addition, I want to make sure we cover as many examples as we can of ways this skill has been helpful. I know about one that a friend of mine who actually teaches remote viewing, who was bringing this skill to the blind, and in doing that they had remarkable ability to use their special sight. A fascinating area. But tell me a few of the stories from from your students and background that are unusual or might not come to mind for the average person thinking about remote viewing?
Okay, so we're into practical applications. So remote viewing can actually be used to target anything. So, like, for instance, one of the guys in our team has a really souped-up kind of race car where this problem was. So he had us remote view the problem with his car, and there was actually what we discovered was that there was a problem with the transmission. He took this to his mechanic, and they found where the problem was and fixed it. They're simple, they're mundane, but if you lose something, you lose your wallet, you lose your car keys, you lose, God forbid, your wedding ring that your wife gave you, or your wife loses her wedding ring or earrings, or, whatever it is that you have in life, you can find these things via remote viewing.
So there are everyday practical applications that people use.
It's a practical tool. To touch on a topic that's, I guess, somewhat morbid, is a friend of mine that was a Marine to Iraq twice, and he wanted to know if during his second deployment, if he was going to be lucky enough to stay alive. And I said, well, I can find out, but this is a really touchy topic, because if it shows that you're going to die over there, there's no way to avert it, because something that we discovered is that reality is quite deterministic. If you can remote view something in the future, it means that it has already occurred. So we remote viewed when he was going to die. And fortunately, it showed him in a hospital bed as a very old man dying surrounded by his family. He didn't die when he went to his second deployment in Iraq. Nice, happy ending. But these are things that it can be used for. You can use it to diagnose medical problems. These people, open-minded professionals such as this, see the power of being able to diagnose medical conditions that defy diagnosis. A person comes in and they have a rash that doesn't respond to any type of treatment, or they have a back problem that doesn't respond, or they have various issues. You can find out what these things are. And because they have the technical lexicon to describe these things, they are easily able to gather data and discover what the real, true root cause of a person's medical or psychological condition is, and provide proper treatment to that person because of it.
Well, I have some personal experience, or I'll share. I have a cousin who is one of the most remarkable medical intuitives on the planet. She has done remarkable studies with medical doctors. And I guess what you're saying, that I think I want the listeners to hear, is that if those are the kinds of skill sets that you're interested in developing, this is just another way of enhancing that skill. And
yes,
so
yes, definitely.
So we've talked about several examples of how remote viewing can be used in a helpful way in someone's life. And you've talked about examples of how you and Ed Daines and others are, doing work to help the world. Talk a little bit about the introduction or the problem of time in remote viewing that led you to do the work that you're introducing.
Okay. Well, in remote viewing, there is a problem of time and timeline specificity. And what I mean by that is a remote viewer can look at something in the future, and they'll be able to describe it with pristine clarity. They'll be able to tell you everything that's going on at this particular future event or the future state of a person, place, or thing. But the problem is very difficult to ascertain when that thing is occurring. The problem with time is that when a person remote views a future event, it's very difficult.
And the topic today is remote viewing. And for many of you, it's one of those things that has potential to be positive, but it's not necessarily something everybody wants to learn themselves. I think that what I find is valuable is the fact that it is conclusive evidence of how connected we actually all are. When a remote viewer views anything, future, past, they are aware that they are working within a matrix of connection.